everybody, and welcome to another episode of All the WrestleManias. I'm your co-host, Tim Hackman.
And I'm Rich Sigwald.
Rich is trying out his new podcaster voice. We hope you like it. We're excited, as always, to be back in the studio with you. We hope you enjoyed our recent episodes. We did WrestleMania 25 with Dr. Jess. She was dropping some academic knowledge on us on that one. That was a really good one. For Thanksgiving, we did the Montreal Screwjob Survivor Series from 1997. This is our next to last episode for 2022, our very last one, we hope. Will be a year in review. We're going to try to look back at some of the shows that we watched and live and in person and also on tape and, revisit some of our favorite matches and performers and that sort of thing. So we're excited about that.
It is not a clip show.
It's not a clip show. It's going to be all new content just for you.
That's way too hard. It's way too hard to go back and make a clip show. So
just for you, for the fans. So we'll tell some of the same jokes. We're not that creative. We're going to have to recycle some material, I think. So, but how was did you have a good Thanksgiving?
I actually did. I had a very relaxing Thanksgiving, surprisingly, considering the circumstances and all. My phone broke on Thanksgiving Day. It went black while I was sitting there playing a little game, and it wouldn't turn back on. And then my wife cracked the screen on it, trying to get it turned back on. So that's the end of the phone. I am currently waiting for a phone to come, and being phoneless has been kind of nice.
Yeah.
No one can get a hold of me. It's fine with me. Leave me alone. It's great.
Your wife doesn't know her own strength, apparently. It's just
no.
snap that bad boy in half.
Yeah. How about yours? How was your Thanksgiving?
My wife also doesn't know her own strength. It was good. Pretty good Thanksgiving. We just made dinner for the two of us here at home. The last time I was sans phone like that was when I went kayaking up in the Finger Lakes, and my kayak turned over, and I got out of the water just fine, but the phone that had been in my pocket did not. Yeah. The fish from Lake Seneca have been calling me nonstop ever since. It's been a couple years.
They're wanting you to extend your car warranty.
They're like, what's your next Netflix password, man? So anyway, this episode, we thought we would talk about a War Games match because, WWE Survivor Series this weekend, which I caught the replay of today. Actually, it aired on Saturday, the 26th. It was a War Games episode, a War Games special. They had men's and women's War Games matches instead of the usual Survivor Series format. So we thought it might be fun to look back at a historic War Games match, maybe. And the one that we picked was a WCW Wrestle War 91 from way back on February 24th, 1991, from the Arizona Veterans Memorial Coliseum in Phoenix, Arizona. Attendance was about 6,800. The tagline on this one was, "We want you." I assume it's because it's Veterans Memorial and War Games, and I don't know, they're trying to get us to enlist, I guess. I'm not sure.
Is this Gulf War 91? Desert
maybe.
Shield?
Pretty close, yeah. Who knows?
Yeah, I think they make a couple references to it, don't they?
Yeah. So that's you can't go wrong with appealing to America's jingoism. But it was it's an interesting one, and we were just talking before we went on the air that 1991 is a pretty happening time in pro wrestling, and I know we've talked about some other shows from 91, the WrestleMania 7 you mentioned, and Battle Royal Albert Hall. If you haven't heard those episodes, you might want to go back. But anything else going on in 91 around the time of the show that you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, so I mean, it's interesting that we just talked about a little bit with the initial Gulf War is occurring at this time, and WCW's is making light homage to it, but like can't stay in focus, while WWF went full committal, made Sergeant Slaughter heel and Iraqi, and then put the title on him, and he's probably one of the most hated heels of all time. And like all of that actually sets in motion, along with some stuff on this show that sets stuff in motion that ends up with Ric Flair in WWF this year, and the title getting thrown on him eventually just at the change of the year in 92. It's a chaotic year of wrestling. This is the end of the original run of the Four Horsemen. and can see where WWF is going in 91, where they got heavy gimmicks, comic book style storytelling, as opposed to this show where it's just wrestling. It's everybody working under their, well, assumed names still, but nothing like Irwin R. Shyster or Hulk Hogan. Like they're, Bobby Eaton. they're
Yeah.
just
They're like,
just everyday Joes,
yeah, they're names that sound like names that actual people would have.
Right. And they're it's not flashy. It's nothing insane like fireballs being thrown in someone's face or or any of the other crazy stuff like Sergeant Slaughter, like declaring himself Iraqi and becoming a general in the Iraqi army or anything like that, partnering with the Iron Sheik. Like none of that over the top stuff is happening in the show. This is just like, I'm angry at you, you're angry at me, we're going to wrestle.
It's much more the side of personal grievance kind of thing.
Right.
I don't like the way you talked about my mama.
Yeah. So it's really a pivotal year in professional wrestling here. Cause I mean, we have, as I mentioned, the Ric Flair affair, we have like some other rumblings in WWF is happening. Like Bret Hart wins a King of the Ring tournament. That isn't a pay-per-view yet. I guess it was like a pilot run. I know the first pay-per-view of the King of the Ring was actually like the 9th King of the Ring tournament WWF had held or something like that. We have the rise of Lex Luger happening in this year in WCW. They put the belt on him, and some more familiar names start sticking out too, like Bam Bam Bigelow is showing up in some of the other territories that still exist at this point. Mil Mascaras is on the rise in Mexico and stuff. So and funny that one of the big matches of that year was Mil Mascaras, Dos Caras, and El Canek versus the Hawaiian Beasts, aka the Samoan SWAT team, aka the Head Shrinkers, Samu and Fatu. So aka Rikishi. If you just keep following the line, you get to so there's stuff is happening all around the world. The Legion of Doom and are fighting Hulk Hogan and Junichiro Tenryu in Japan. Everything is everywhere. It's a huge year for professional wrestling.
Yeah, for sure. And it's sort of a transitional moment too. We're sort of leaving the cartoons of the 80s and moving on to a new era in the 90s. We're not, obviously not to the Raw era yet. It's still it's drawing money like crazy, and some of these personalities are popping. So it's a good time to watch for sure. This is actually the 3rd Wrestle War episode. We did a podcast episode on the first one from 1989, which was a pretty good one. And they only had one more Wrestle War after this one before that sort of particular brand was discontinued by WCW. So
are you saying we need to change our name to All the Wrestle Wars?
All the Wrestle Wars. We've only got 2 more to go, and we'll check them all off. That seems a little more doable now.
Yeah,
think about it.
Feels a lot more obtainable than all the WrestleManias.
Yeah, we've got some spectacular commentary on this one, courtesy of Dusty Rhodes and good old JR Jim Ross. Dusty's having the time of his life. He's just floating gems left and right. And Tony Schiavone is around for interviews, and he's having a good time as well. So this is it's an action packed one. It's a star-studded affair. I'm ready to jump into it if you are. Anything else?
This show is poorly attended. The camera does not do a good job of hiding how little the crowd is for this show. It is not good. Basically, once you get out of range of the hard cam shooting the 2 rings, it's like empty seats, and they didn't tarp them over or anything like that, like they do in modern day. You can just see wide open arena seats. I would guess that the attendance to this show, wow, the Wikipedia says 6,800. That feels really high.
Yeah, that's
compared to what we saw.
Some no shows. I don't think of Phoenix as a big wrestling town. I don't know. I may be wrong about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like one of those names that you hear come up from the territories. It's no like Charlotte or Raleigh or
Hell, it ain't Greensboro.
right, or Memphis or anything like that. Like you don't hear Phoenix. This doesn't resonate even like as much as like the Dallas and Houston territories with WCCW and stuff like that. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
It's weird that like they I guess they saw WWF really trying to stretch coast to coast, so they pushed it as well, you know. And I know that they really wanted to fight WWF all the way before even Eric Bischoff got in there and stuff. But Phoenix was not a good choice.
Thought they'd look west. It didn't quite turn out that well. So there's actually a dark match that we don't see on the pay-per-view. It's Eddie Guerrero and Ultraman versus Huichol. I don't know how you say that name. Huichol and Rudy Boy. So Eddie Guerrero must have been just a teeny tiny baby here. He and Ultraman win that particular match. So I'd be very curious to see that. I doubt it's out there anywhere, but you never know. Maybe it's on one of those tapes that people like to trade around. And then we get to the main card, and we just jump right in. We do have a sort of gimmicky tag team match to start. It's the State Patrol, which is Lieutenant James Earl Wright and Sergeant Buddy Lee. Neither of those are their names. Neither of those guys are actually state police. And they are with Big Cat, whose real name is Curtis Hughes. And they are up against Ricky Morton, Wildfire, Tommy Rich, and the Junkyard Dog. This is the WCW World Six-Man Tag Team Championship match. It's a pretty good start to the show.
Yeah, and I was taken off guard by a 6-man championship, and then also to see Ricky Morton without Robert Gibson with him too. That was a little prize. I mean, he still has the exact same style to where he just gets the crap beat out of him for a while and then a hot tag. So the formula is still there, and this is kind of late Junkyard Dog too, and he's looking late.
Yeah, it's not. He's not looking so good. He looks like a barrel in tights.
No,
he's very very large. Big Cat is a slab of meat too. That guy's gigantic.
Yeah, I was. Well, that's also Mr. Hughes, right? He shows Mr. up in Hughes, WWF in early Raw days of '93, just being big, mean, and tough, badass guy. So, and he is that in this match, but Ricky Morton, Tommy Rich, and Junkyard Dog just keep the belts, and they beat the guy that makes you think of the murder of Martin Luther King Jr. You can't put the names James Earl together. You just can't. And that's intentional. It has to be intentional to you make him a cop and name him James Earl. Like, I don't know. It feels
a big boss man before the big boss man. So yeah, there's some classic JYD spots here. He does the falling headbutt, of course, and he does the no sell and the Hulk up, and he pulls the big thump on one of the other guys. That's just basically just a power slam. Ricky Morton takes it's interesting. It's like a classic JYD match and a classic Rock and Roll Express match kind of thrown together. Like Ricky Morton just gets his ass beat for a good long time, and then like you said, he gets that hot tag to JYD, who comes in and cleans house, hits the power slam. Ricky ends up getting the pin on one of the stadies, I believe.
That thump slam is pretty badass looking. I don't know what it is. It's just something. I don't know if it's the angle that he puts them down at. That it just looks harsh and it looks good. And I didn't think that Ricky was the legal man at the time of the finish of this match.
He just kind of jumped in. I don't know actually what was going on there. He
snuck back in, crawled on top of the cop, and got the pin to win. And
don't think about it too much.
And then there was a couple golden moments here from Dusty that has to be acknowledged. That you have Dusty saying the Junkyard Dog be dealing, and then he talks about how JYD told him he knows a few holds, how to hold his head and hold his toes.
That's great. Can you imagine the conversation between Junkyard Dog and Dusty Rhodes? Would anybody know what was being said on either side?
You would have no idea what the hell's happening, but you're gonna love it. That's a promise. And in traditional Jim Ross style, we are getting the football playing history of every single person in this match.
Yeah, this one kind of left me wanting to see more of Mr. Hughes, honestly, because that guy's a unit. So,
well, keep pushing your way through the 1993 Monday Night Raws, and you'll see him.
all right. Yeah, I should get back into it. Second match on the card is beautiful Bobby Eaton versus Brad Armstrong. Brad is the son of Bullet Bob Armstrong, who we've seen at one or two of the specials that we watched. He's also the brother to Steve, Scott, and Brian Armstrong. I just learned this just a couple weeks ago. Brian Armstrong is a.k.a. Brian James, a.k.a. the Road Dogg.
Mm-hmm.
So he's also a son of Bullet Bob Armstrong. I didn't know that.
And he's also the brother of one of the members of the Young Pistols, who we see later on in the night too.
Was that Steve or Scott?
I think it's Steve.
Hold on. Yep, Steve.
Yeah.
It's a complicated genealogy for the Armstrong family.
Well, you know, people, we love doing genealogies on this show, so we're all in.
Yeah. So these guys both look great. Brad has a rare haircut, the curly mullet. It's like a permed mullet. It's beautiful. I like that Bobby Eaton is billed from the dark side.
Yeah, I don't understand that at all, but okay.
He's not like a weirdo character, you know. Like he's not like like an Islander or like you know what I mean, like a parts
unknown. He's not the Undertaker.
Yeah,
he's not. There's literally a guy that is pretending to be dead in the competition.
Yeah,
that is from the dark side, and then Bobby Eaton, beautiful Bobby Eaton, is going to roll down to the ring from the dark side.
So when he comes down, is there a real Bobby chant from the crowd, or is that on the PA? Because it kind of
on the PA. It's in the music.
Yeah, I kind of thought
his
so.
Music. Yeah, and it's great. I loved it so much.
Yeah.
And I mean, the crowd was hyped for him, but they were not chanting Bobby Eaton that loudly unless they literally like hid microphones under everybody's seat.
Yeah, sort of shades of Monday Night Raw with them sweetening the audio, you know.
Yeah,
so
the John Cena.
Yeah,
the John Cena cheers, like that's not real.
So these guys worked their asses off. Like I didn't expect a whole lot from this match, but oh my God, these guys really, they go at it. It's a good match. There's a lot of dramatic tension. There's a lot of just really cool moves and like not just showing off spot monkey stuff, but like, you know, actually kind of building the fight and just back and forth. I really, really enjoyed this one.
This is the type of match that they should show every person on the first day of wrestling school.
Yeah.
And then they should also make the entire roster of AEW sit down and watch this match with William Regal screaming at them like, this is what you do. This is how you do it. Watch them. You know, watch Bobby Eaton. And like this match makes you understand why like people like Stone Cold Steve Austin and Shawn Michaels and Jim Cornette and like Ricky Morton and everybody else in the wrestling world like name drop Bobby Eaton nonstop. He does some incredible stuff in this match without looking flashy, without looking showy or very like standoutish, but like him and Brad do some crazy stuff. Like Brad and Bobby are in a test of strength, and Brad vertical jumps onto Bobby's shoulders out of the test of strength, jumps over him, and then climbs the ropes for a cross body, then locks back his arm into an arm bar. Like,
yeah, it's nuts.
What?
It's nuts.
What?
There's another one where Bobby, like, he's trying like the suplex where you bounce the person off the top rope, but he doesn't really bounce, and Armstrong sort of reverses it into a suplex of his own. That was incredible. There's another one of those like slingshot maneuvers that Bobby does get, and he turns it into a backbreaker. It's freaking amazing.
Yeah, there's just some great stuff, and like Bobby is working a little dirty, so there's a real nasty sucker punch when they break in the corner on that Bobby lands on Brad, and then there's some really good vocals from Bobby Eaton as well when he's in the arm bar screaming, kind of like Ric Flair, oh God, shit, oh God, like when he's in the arm bar and stuff. Really selling it, really putting Brad over. This is a textbook match. It's I'm not going to quite go as far as like it's a show stealer, like a Macho Man Ricky Steamboat kind of thing, but this is definitely one to queue up and not to fast forward over if you're trying to get to the huge cage match at the end. Don't skip this one because you're going to miss some great stuff like Jason Hervey from the Wonder Years sitting ringside.
Yeah, that's the older brother Wayne from the Wonder Years.
Yeah,
you might remember. Also, if you fast forward, you're going to miss some really, again, gold, dusty commentary on this one. They have one of them has the other guy in like an abdominal stretch, and Dusty says, "That'll make you feel like you've been out all day working on the plumbing and crawling all under the house."
Yeah. And also Dusty says that whenever I see that old glory, my heart starts a beating.
So Armstrong makes a little comeback, and then Bobby gets just a beauty of a neck breaker, and then the Alabama Jam, which is basically a leg drop off the top rope. I don't know how that move doesn't just like snap off his coccyx and drive it up into his lower colon, but hey, good for him.
Yeah, I don't know how like your spine stays in alignment after that. Yeah, that it's a great finish. It's a great match, and definitely one to watch, and one to like if you ever want to go to wrestling school, watch this match first. You're gonna learn something.
Yeah,
and then
so we see Jason Hervey, also the Great Muta's in the crowd. They're talking up his upcoming match with Sting in Japan. And Dusty's like, "Am I going over there with you?" to Ross. And so I get a little sushi and some sake, baby. And JR says, "I'm from Oklahoma. We don't eat much sushi. We call that bait."
It's such a great exchange. They're so good together.
I like the idea that Dusty like doesn't know whether or not he's scheduled to go to Japan with in the near future.
Am I going? Like, you're basically in charge of the company at this time, Dusty. I think you're going to Japan.
You can go if you want to. It's up to you.
I think you're going. You know.
This show's moving right along. Next up is a women's tag team match with 4 women from Japan. It's Itsuki Yamazaki and Mami Kitamura versus Miki Honda and Miss A. They have a lot of trouble saying Miss A's actual name, and so they just settle on Miss A, which, I guess is all right. It's
what you got to do.
You do what you got to do. They call that bait. They don't like the sushi and the sake, but this is actually a pretty good, clean,
this is a great match,
technical match. Like, these women work their asses off. Like, stuff looks legit. Like, it doesn't look like the kind of 90-pound bullshit you see on AEW these days. It's like, it's actual wrestling. I thought it was fantastic, honestly.
They're hitting each other,
yeah,
and Dusty and JR are really struggling. They're really struggling with the names. Dusty just keeps going, "That's my lady. That's my woman." Especially about Miss A. I think he loved Miss A.
Well, they try to guess her weight, and they end up around 180. And Dusty says, "She's solid. She's a solid lady."
Yeah. And Dusty also mentions that a headbutt was right in the cross your heart bra area.
Do they still make those? Cross your heart?
Probably. I'm sure. I don't study that stuff. So yeah, this is a great match. The crowd, that's the big thing in this, is that the crowd loved this match, and that really helped it get over too. I think is that after there was a double underhook suplex thing, power bomb that one of the contestants in this match pulled off. I'm struggling to remember which one did it to who, but that got a huge pop. And then after that move, every single thing these ladies did was big cheers. There was no heel or face in the match. There was this everybody cheering for everything that they were doing. And it's a great energy that I feel like part of the Brad Armstrong versus Bobby Eaton energy flowed into this match, and then these ladies kept the tempo going, which was great.
Yeah. So Yamazaki and Kitamura get the win by pinning Miss A after a flying clothesline off the top and sort of a roll-up thing. Really surprisingly good. There's been a few of the, like the Jumping Bomb Angels and a couple of those other Japanese tag teams on some of the WrestleManias we've seen, and I don't think any of them really quite lived up to their potential, but these ladies freaking brought it. So
yeah, none of them have ever really connected to the audience as well either, and I think that makes a big difference with this one. is that somehow that move plus the match prior to it, and I think just the type of audience that would come out to the WCW shows at this time were more likely to appreciate this. It was, if you looked at the crowd pans, you could see that the crowd was a little bit older. I don't want to say like geriatric, but they're older. There's not as many kids in the crowd, so like
Yeah.
the overall pitch of the overall crowd scream was significantly lower than the screams of WrestleMania 7, which happened like a month after this, which basically sounded like a kindergarten. So I think that makes a big difference into who is watching. And yeah, this is a top-notch match. This is like a great double feature right at the beginning of this card, pretty much, of Brad and Bobby versus and these Japanese ladies doing an amazing job.
Yeah. Well, that kind of matches up with WCW's pitch in general, is that it is a more mature product for a more mature fan, or a fan who likes wrestling, who doesn't want the cartoon stuff. They want, personal grievances and people with actual names and, real fights. So that makes a lot of sense. And I think this, like you said, this type of crowd is more primed to appreciate that kind of match.
Yeah.
So after the match, Tony Schiavone is with Missy Hyatt, who is bound and determined to get in the locker room to do an interview. She wants to be the first woman interviewer to go into the men's locker room. I think her interests are prurient. I don't know. I don't think they're entirely honorable.
She cracked me up because she's like, I'm demanding equal treatment. I want to be treated just like a normal journalist. And then she goes, I'm looking to interview a babe.
She doesn't care who she interviews so long as it's a babe.
Way to objectify the men in the locker room. God.
So, but then we get back to the action. It's Dustin Rhodes versus Buddy Landel. So Dusty gets to call a match for his own boy, which is kind of interesting to me. Dustin looks great. He's super. He looks exactly like his dad here. Like it's a little bit scary.
Yeah, he's just a slightly slimmer version of his dad in this, and taller. He's much taller than his dad.
Yeah. So
he's like 6'10", something like that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I didn't write too much down about this one. I just wrote that Landel just bumps all over the place for Dustin.
Yeah.
And there he has those beautiful arm drags that we've noticed multiple times.
Yeah.
I don't know how he can hang around AEW and not teach those fucking guys how to do an arm drag. That's worth a goddamn.
I know.
He needs to do it.
There's a little bit of sloppiness in this match. Like they go for an Irish whip to the corner and like Landel just kind of like falls down or something. I don't know what was happening, but like, again, I'm just going to point out that Landel is really just trying to be Ric Flair in this match. He takes the being caught at the top from the top rope into a body slam. He begs Dustin not to hurt him. All that kind of good stuff that Ric Flair does, Buddy Landel is also doing in this match, and it's kind of it just doesn't work with him. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't understand. But okay, that's fine. And then Dustin wins with a running bulldog.
It's a pretty short. It's kind of just it's over. So. There's another good Dusty line in this one. He says, when you back a dog into a corner, you got to be very careful that it don't bite you.
God.
I don't know what is going on.
Oh, that guy.
So,
my God.
R.I.P. Dusty. Missy Hyatt does get into the dressing room. She does not find a babe.
So good.
What she finds is Stan Hansen with just an absolute wad of chewing tobacco sticking out of his mouth and just tobacco juice all down his chest.
Oh, it's so gross.
It's disgusting. And he's hollering and chasing her out. And apparently this is a reference to something that happened with an actual newscaster.
In the Patriots locker room in 1990, during the 1990 football season, a woman, journalist, tried to go in and interview players and got chased out of the locker room. And it was a whole big deal. It calls the schmaz and stuff like that. So, but this scene is just hilarious to me. I thought this was one of the funniest things I've seen in old wrestling in quite a while that we've watched. It's Stan Hansen is so gross. He looks so gross.
He's a fucking maniac. Yeah.
Like half his, like, Tim said he has this massive wad of chewing tobacco. It's like that doesn't do it
Chaw.
justice. It's like hanging out of his mouth. It looks like he took like 5 cigars and shoved it into his corners of his mouth and chewed them and then started pushing them back out with his tongue. Like, it doesn't even look like it's actual chewing tobacco. It looks like he literally chewed up cigars or something.
It's really gross.
This massive wad hanging out of his mouth, and like you can see the juices dripping, running down his chest and his now middle-aged belly. Oh, it's so gross, and he's just screaming out, "Go, go, go! What do you think you're doing? Go!" You can't even really understand what he's saying because there's so much, and it's like flying, like juice is flying out of his mouth. It's so gross. It's so gross, and
So
it's so amazing.
you're saying it was gross.
Yeah, and then the camera comes back, and like Tony Schiavone can't contain himself. He's laughing so hard.
I can't. Can you imagine trying to keep a straight face after that? I don't know.
No. I can. I think this might be one of those memories now seared into my brain of wrestling, just like the image of Stan Hansen covered in his own tobacco juice chasing a woman out of the locker room. It's not an image I want to be able to recall, but I now can recall it, and I don't like it.
I have to get some therapy. All right, who's next? We got the Young Pistols. So we got another Armstrong boy. These guys are everywhere. Steve Armstrong and Tracy Smothers versus the Royal Family, which is Jack Victory and Rip Morgan. We've seen Jack Victory and Rip Morgan on one of these other specials that we talked about, I remember for sure. So first of all, the pyro on the ramp like almost sets the Pistols on fire, and they look very concerned, like it goes off while they're still like directly in front of it. So that was a bit of an oops. These guys start out hot though. The Pistols are sort of smaller and faster. The Royals are real big and strong. It's kind of a sort of back and forth kind of classic thing. But then the lights go out in the stadium. nobody really seems too bothered by it. Like JR and Dusty are just kind of like making jokes about it, and the guys just keep wrestling, and they talk about how hot it is, and maybe the AC blew the power. And then JR keeps getting his Armstrongs mixed up. He can't keep the Armstrongs straight. Which I get. There's too many Armstrongs.
And it's this match. I don't know. I got kind of distracted by like the lights going out. I just was stuck with like who the hell are any of these guys? Like the ref in this match is Nick Patrick. He's more famous than any of the participants in this match. And the Young Pistols look like they're like cowboy strippers designed by Elton John. The Royal Family guys came down in like green and gold Renaissance garb. Like it's just not working. And like some of the spots at the start of this match were identical to the Japanese women's match. And it was like, well, you guys just messed up. I don't know. Like you're just ripping off another match. Yeah. And then one of the guys in the Royal Family just keeps screaming, you, like I don't understand. I didn't understand anything that was happening. And then like one of the Royals had this like Joe Dirt mullet on steroids, and like I don't know.
91 was an unfortunate time for men's hairstyles.
Yeah,
just put that out there.
And like,
so I wasn't sure what happened to you, but the Royals try a double suplex on a Pistol, but he like drops him just about on his damn head, and then he flips over on top of one of the Royals and gets the pin, so that the Pistols get the win for this particular match. But I only caught that because I watched it on the replay. Then
JR is not trying to convince you that they're actual Royals at all. There's no backstory to their gimmick or anything. Like JR actually tells you that one of them is a former New Zealand rugby star. Like he's not in the Royal Family then. Like at least over in the WWF, they're going to do a stupid gimmick like you're a trash man. They actually talk about and like film you on a trash truck, and like they talk about you like having your route and stuff like that. Like JR just doesn't give a shit. Like, and you can tell that even when watching like some of these like early attitude era shows with like the Nation of Domination. JR is just calling Farouk Ron Simmons and talking about his football. Like he's not going for it at all. But like Also before there was Wikipedia, there was Jim Ross. That's where you learned everything about wrestlers was all the stupid, insane stuff that comes out of Jim Ross's mouth.
Well, or Gorilla Monsoon before that, as we've discussed. That's where we learn all of our biology and anatomy. So,
right.
Yeah, this one wraps up. We're all the better for it. There's a DDP, a Diamond Dallas Page promo after this, where Teddy Long interrupts and says, "Homie, don't play that." In Living Color was on about this time, I guess.
And I don't think the audience got that reference whatsoever at all. They didn't get it. I
don't think there's much crossover in the older WCW crowd in Phoenix and the average In Living Color.
The intended audience for In Living Color, we should say.
I loved that show.
I did too,
as
actually.
a teenager. It's funny as balls.
Yeah.
And it gave us Jim Carrey. So for better or worse.
We also had another great Dusty line to where he says that move will make your back crack, your liver quiver, and your knees squeeze.
Beautiful.
All of them hitting his lisp perfectly.
He should have written greeting cards. So
yeah, DDP in his promo also delivered a beautiful line of he calls someone, I can't remember now who he called this, but he called them a Copenhagen dipping peanut head.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know either, but it made me laugh.
Oh, Copenhagen dipping. Yeah, I get it. Like dipping Copenhagen tobacco.
Yeah.
Like whatever the fuck was going on with
Stan Hansen had 10 cans of it shoved into his mouth at the time.
I was distracted by how much Kenny Omega looks like DDP in his get up from this era.
Oh my God, you're right. You're totally right.
He sends DDP some of his royalty checks because he totally lifted it, especially when he comes out for the match later. Jackie, my wife, is like, she's like, "Is that Kenny Omega?" I'm like, no. I mean, yes, but no.
Kenny Omega's like 10 at this point, I think.
Yeah,
probably. So you're right. I hadn't put those pieces together, but now I can't unsee it. It totally is. Yeah.
Maybe we should pull up some pictures and tweet them. Then people can judge for themselves. So, but it's a little startling. So,
homie, don't play that.
So the next match is Terry Taylor. This is pre-Red Rooster gimmick, I think. Or is it post? I can't remember. It doesn't matter. No. He's there with his valet Alexandra York, aka Terry Runnels, aka Mrs. Dustin Rhodes.
Future. They're not married yet. They met here.
Terry is wrestling the Z-Man, which is Tom Zenk, in a no disqualification match. You may remember Tom Zenk from a tag team with Rick Martel. In the WWF, he wasn't around there very long. He had a much longer stretch in WCW. So, but he looks like a buff Rick Martel. He looks like if Rick Martel put on like 50 pounds of muscle, that's Tom Zenk is what he looks like. So, they start out slow, kind of technical, some side headlocks, some takeovers. Taylor keeps kind of taking the time out to check with his manager and make sure he wants to know what he's doing. So I think it's kind of a fun gimmick. JR uses the word staunch, and Dusty doesn't know what it means. Has to ask him to explain it. I liked. Zank sells the living hell out of a suplex. And these guys, actually, I enjoyed this one. These guys work pretty well together. Nikita Koloff is in the crowd, and so is Hiro Matsuda. We'll see them a little bit later. And then about halfway through, they actually go out on the floor, which kind of I sort of had to kind of pinch myself because I just realized that I just watched, I don't know, like an hour or something of a wrestling show, and nobody had gone out on the floor yet. In your average AEW episode, they pretty much just start out there and go in the ring very sparingly. So I thought it was kind of notable for how rare it is here versus kind of modern day wrestling.
Yeah. So this is this is post Red Rooster.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Gimmick. He had just actually come back to WCW at this point. So this is a no DQ match. It's very boring for a no DQ match. Like there's nothing happening. Like I don't understand. Miss York also looks like the nerdy scientist wrestler from Glow.
Yeah,
it's not, but she totally does.
She She has this weird like word processor thing that she's typing on the entire time. I'm not sure
Yeah.
that's actually. It kind of looks like a giant calculator, but it's I don't know what it's supposed to be.
So she's always calculating like statistics of Terry's odds of winning. That's what she's always doing. This is like a no DQ match, and Terry Taylor is choking Z-Man, and the ref is trying to stop him. It's a no DQ. JR lets us know that they both have college degrees, which is very important for the youth. Very important. Let the youth know that these two participants, if you have a college degree, you too can be a mid-card professional wrestler
who acts like a rooster on live television.
And wrestles a man that just goes by the first letter of his last name.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed this match, though. There was some fun spots, but then when you go, well, this is a no DQ match, and there's no steel chairs, there's nothing. The only thing that they do that's slightly edgy is that they go outside of the ring and they're choking him, but like the ref stops him. But Taylor gets a win after the distraction by York on Z-Man, and then we get gifted the corporate package video type music, the MIDI synthesizers of the 90s music that Terry Taylor has as his as his music. It's delightful. Like you can imagine like a PowerPoint slideshow happening to it, like some older white guy in glasses nodding. Yeah, this is a good idea. This has synergy. There's synergy to this.
Yeah. Yeah, he gets the old grabbing the tights for the roll up and the pin, which we've discussed before. So yeah, decent match. I like, Zank. Both these guys are pretty good. I don't know why this was no DQ. I assume that they had just a bunch of different matches that didn't end satisfactorily up to now, and this is all that was left. Who knows? It's hard to say. So there's let's see what happens after this. Oh yeah, Dusty and JR sort of tease El Gigante and Paulie Heyman. So here comes Heyman, Paulie dangerously, Paul Heyman dressed like a matador. So I was a little bit nervous at first. Like,
well, he's not dressed as a matador. He comes out to the matador song, but he's dressed as a mariachi performer.
Oh, a mariachi. Yeah. What did I say? I said matador. Yeah. You're right. I'm sorry. He's dressed as him. He's got the big ass sombrero and the jacket and the whole thing.
And you're immediately like, oh, this is Phoenix.
Yeah.
And he's coming out like this. Oh my God. Paulie dangerously is not going to survive this night. This is not going to go good.
Yeah. Gigante looks good here though. He's like super young. Now he had sort of a rough life. He didn't look that good that long, but Heyman torments him a little bit, which just seems like a bad idea. And then ends up throwing his sombrero at El Gigante and gets body slammed for his efforts, which I could have told you was coming.
Yeah. So he starts out this promo. Hello, my name is Paul E. Dangerously. So like he's hitting it already. 30 some years ago, he's dropping my name is Paul, blah, 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 whatever he decides to go by.
Yeah, I caught that too.
Yeah, he lands this great line that says, you guys can take your velvet paintings and your refried beans back over the border.
Yikes.
Ooh, he's trying to get some heat. And he also notes that he never met an honest Hispanic person while living in New York City. And then he takes his sombrero off at one point, and you can see that he actually has notes inside the sombrero that he is reading from.
Oh shit, I missed it.
To land these lines. And and the entire time Dusty Rhodes just keeps calling him El Gallente. El Gallente, El Gallente, El Gallente, El Gallente. Like he can't say his name, and it's so precious.
First the Japanese tag teams, and then El Gigante. That's not fair. It's not fair to Dusty.
No, you can't do this. And then it does end great though. Gigante whips the shit out of Paul.
You just did it too. Gigante.
I mean, I'm stuck in Dusty mode.
Baby.
Baby, he beats the shit out of him, baby, and then he puts on the sombrero and leaves. Gigante puts on the sombrero. It's great, and it's at one point Paul also tells him to speak English. Like, oh my god, like he's just he takes the gas to 11, and that's what's so great about Paul Heyman. He sees it, he sees the line, and he's got to go over the line, and then he needs to poke you in the eye repeatedly after going over the line. He is a genius at creating heat. Oh my god.
Yeah, he's going to have a meeting with HR for sure after that. Not good. Tony interviews Hiro Matsuda and the Great Muta. I didn't really note anything. Did you note anything they said there?
No, they're plugging the Japanese Super Show thing that they got coming up after this. That's what is it? I guess it's WrestleFest that's coming up. No, not WrestleFest. No, Super Show. It's the WCW New Japan Super Show.
The one that Dusty isn't sure he's going to or not.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what they're basically talking up, even though I don't think it was available to order in the United States. So thanks for telling us about it.
This was before ExpressVPN, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So next up on the card is Big Van Vader coming in at a svelte 404 pounds. We both noticed he looks a little skinnier than than you usually think of. I mean, if you can count 404 as skinny, up against Stan the Lariat Hansen, fresh off of his stellar dressing room performance.
He still has all the chew, and he's coming down.
Still got the chaw in there. It's still like just spraying everywhere. It's still fucking disgusting. Coming down to the ring, I'm like, how is he going to wrestle? Like he like wrestles with it for the first minute or two. He's going to swallow it and choke on it and like die.
There's chew juice all over the mat, and you can see like hunks of tobacco all over the ring. It's so gross.
That wasn't even a put on. He just did that like normally.
No,
that was just his thing. So, and Vader also has this like scary helmet and shoulder pad thing on that like steams.
Yeah.
He's basically wearing a lucha mask here. He doesn't have his sort of weird
the dog like always reminded me of like those like invisible dog leash with the leather muzzles on them. I don't know if you like it's made to look like you have an invisible dog walking. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
His mask always reminded me of that.
Get him at the state fair.
Yeah.
That's funny.
He's just got like a lucha mask on, and like I just noted that like someone's gonna die in this match, isn't it? Like
they don't even wait. They don't even wait to get to the ring. They just start on the ramp. There's some chops. There's some nice right hands from Vader. He does a beauty of an elbow drop that I like would have caved in a normal man's chest for sure.
Yeah.
Hansen picks up friggin' Vader into a back suplex, which I don't know how he did that without leaving a. I'm herniating everything, and they do end up outside the ring. So there's Vader picks up Hansen and sort of slams him on the barricade, like body slams him on his side, kind of on the barricade.
Yeah,
it's a slugfest.
No, yeah, like Vader is just punching Hansen right in the ear, like it's just repeated ear punches, and it's oh god. And this is more intense than the actual no disqualification match. And this match has disqualifications. It's incredibly intense. It's incredibly mean. It's not really a wrestling match. It is just two humongous human beings fighting each other, like punching each other and like doing horrible things to each other. And JR says the ref looks like a small child, and Dusty fights back. He is a small child. And then after that, Dusty keeps calling the ref Pee-wee through the entire match.
Pee-wee.
And then Dusty says it's just two old big boys having a good time.
That's a little scary. So yeah, they're on their knees, kind of exchanging blows, and the ref tries to sort of get in between them. And Hansen like just friggin' one hands the ref and tosses him out of the ring, like through the ropes and out of the ring.
It's amazing.
I don't even think the ref like helped him. I think he just friggin' one handed that guy. Like that was crazy.
Yeah.
and and the ref gets up and disqualifies them both,
Yeah.
which is the only acceptable outcome for this match, short of like mutually assured destruction and blood and gore from one end to the other. I think this was probably a better outcome.
Yeah, and then they dragged each other brawling to the back too. Like they're just like that's not the end of the match. Like you could argue that they're both still fighting backstage at the Veterans Auditorium in Phoenix right now if we didn't know that Vader was dead.
Yeah.
So, but otherwise, you would totally believe right now that they would still be fighting each other because this fight looked incredibly real. It might have been real.
They may have just said, "Yeah, fuck it, let's just go for it," right? Like,
yeah,
we're both huge.
Let's just beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
We both can take it. Let's do it. Like they almost take out some fans at one point in this match. Like some of the fans look genuinely terrified of what is happening in this match. So
I was terrified, and I'm watching it here like 30 years after the fact.
Yeah.
So I think Vader is probably waiting in hell for Stan Hansen to get there, and they're just going to continue this fight.
Yeah,
once they get together. So, so JR and Dusty are sort of previewing the next match while they clear the beef and tobacco juice out of the ring. He says that this is Spivey's basically his last chance to kind of step up and move into the, the realm of the champions, and sort of this is his shot, and he's pulling for Spivey. So this is Lex Luger versus Dangerous Dan Spivey. This is for the WCW United States Heavyweight Championship. Luger is absolutely glorious looking when he comes out. Like total stud. Spivey looks like a little bit like stunning Steve Austin a little bit when Steve still had hair. I thought
but he's solid like maybe foot taller.
Yeah, he's like 6'7". He's a huge son of a bitch. And they make a big deal about they have a new belt for this U.S. title that's costs $20,000. So that's we mentioned that several times. And we get a nice, good, long look at that $20,000 belt before the match begins.
I argue that this might be one of my favorite Lex Luger matches, and I'm not a big fan of Lex Luger, even though I believe that he deserves to be in the WWE Hall of Fame and all that good stuff. But he is impressive in this match. He is fast. He is strong. He's doing stuff. He has a glorious blonde mullet. He's got without sideburns. It is everything you want in a wrestler is happening from Lex Luger in this match.
I was actually surprised at how well he works here. I don't think of him as somebody who's, particularly adept or skilled in the ring. I think of him as kind of like the look is most of it, right? But
yeah.
He has like some really notable stuff here, including the finish. That we'll get to in a little bit, but I don't know. There's a spot where they have two rings set up for the later War Games match, right? And the matches throughout the night kind of go back and forth between the two different rings. So there's a spot where he sort of dives at Spivey, and Spivey ducks, and Luger goes sort of through the ropes into the second ring. I thought actually looked really natural and really cool.
Yeah,
I like that move.
Yeah, the only issues that I really had with this match was that Dan Spivey lands an inverted pile driver on Luger, and that was not the finish. Then Spivey lands a DDT on Luger, and that was not the finish. And then Spivey lands an elbow from the top rope, and that is not a finish. And then Luger takes a second pile driver from Spivey, and that is not the finish. Like, good Lord, guys. You can't pound someone on their head that many times and not have it in the match to stay believable.
Yeah, well, that's the story they're telling, and even Dusty is kind of changing his tune as this goes on. It's sort of like, when it starts, he's with Spivey, he's rooting for Spivey, but as it goes on, he just can't get over how tough Luger is, how Luger's hanging in through all this stuff. Luger just won't go down. He won't go down, and he finally he sort of does a hawk up. He starts no-selling stuff. He does a really nice clothesline from the top, and then a beautiful power slam. But then the win is just like this kind of like crazy reverse, like, I don't know, he reverses something into a small package.
Yeah,
And
like Luger had climbed to the top rope, and Spivey catches him and goes to throw him like you would normally see, like with Ric Flair taking in something. But somehow Luger hooks Spivey's leg while doing it, and they all just like use their momentum to end up rolling with Spivey being caught for the pin.
I was impressed.
Yeah, it's an impressive little finish to come out of Lex Luger. Because he doesn't look flexible enough to do something like that. And Dan Spivey is a beast, and they're like, you don't think he could get into something like that either. But here we are, and Luger gets the roll up win off of a reversal. It's an impressive little finish for them.
Yeah, it was sort of like the shades of that Macho Man finish that we liked so much from way back when. It's not nearly as smooth, as fluid as Macho Man's, but it's I was kind of impressed. I enjoyed this one too. Again, I'm with you. I'm not a huge Lex Luger fan. I like, he looks great. I love the narcissist character, when he did that. I thought that was really cool. I like that better than sort of like the Hulk Hogan Redux, Stars and Stripes and all that stuff. But
Lex Luger's glory in WWF was him with Bobby Heenan and Mr. Perfect, and like the whole relationship between the three of them. That whole storyline with them was my favorite bit of Lex Luger's, I guess, all of Lex Luger's career, in my opinion. Like, that was the good stuff. But this was a good match, and despite Luger getting dropped on his head multiple times and not losing, is a good match.
So Ivan Koloff is in the crowd, or Nikita Koloff, sorry, is in the crowd and presents Luger with the belt, and then of course attacks him with it. So setting up the next feud there.
And Nikita's horrible Russian accent.
It's a legit accent. You don't know what you're talking about.
It is not a legit accent.
All right, we're getting down to the end. We got a tag team WCW World Tag Team Championship match up next. We got the Freebirds, Jimmy Garvin and Michael P.S. Hayes, with Big Daddy Dink and Diamond Dallas Page. Big Daddy Dink, by the way, is what's his face? Humperdinck, Oliver Humperdinck, in some kind of crazy pimp getup, and they are wrestling Doom, which of course is Butch Reed and Ron Simmons, two of our favorite badasses, with Teddy Long, Playa, as manager for them. So the opening to this thing takes forever. It has some of the most cringy stuff from DDP I've seen, and he's looking extra like Kenny Omega. That may have been my main reaction to it, because I couldn't take it.
Yeah, Teddy Long gets introduced as the godfather of wrestling.
Sure.
And they come down with some very, very beautiful dark-skinned women, and Dusty says, "That's some good-looking brown sugar right there, baby." Calm down, Dusty.
Straight to HR.
Down. Oh, man.
But fortunately, once we get through that, we get to have Ron Simmons just brutalizing people.
Oh, my God.
Which makes it all worthwhile. All worthwhile at the end of the day. God, I love Ron Simmons.
He looks like Billy D. Williams here, but has been bench pressing Chewbacca the entire time.
He's such a fucking badass.
Yeah.
JR tells us where he played football, of course.
Yeah, and JR also lets us know that Ron Simmons is Burt Reynolds' favorite wrestler.
Well, I'm so glad we learned that.
We learned all kinds of shit from JR. We learned that one wrestler in that other show was like possibly friends with Vanna White because they went to the same high school at the same time. Like, come on, JR.
Yeah, he's totally Wikipedia. You're right. Like, it's like, the random links in the Wikipedia articles, and you follow it and you follow it and you follow it, and then
you're reading about the French Revolution.
Yeah. And then you're in QAnon, and it's all over. So Garvin is in the middle of fighting Ron Simmons, and he decides to taunt Butch Reed, which on the list of bad ideas I have to put pretty near the top. That's like strapping a stake to yourself and taunting a shark at the beach.
Yeah, dangling your kid over the gorilla cage, Yeah. and then it's taunting Butch Reed. that's the line.
Yeah.
It's not good.
No.
And then God, Ron Simmons is spine buster. How did he not paralyze somebody with that move? Like he gets them a good 5 to 6 feet up in the air and then just drives them down to the mat. And like everybody loves Arn Anderson's spine buster, and it is a beautiful move from him. But Ron Simmons's spine buster, that shit looks real. That like I felt my legs tingle just watching him land that spine buster on Garvin. So
I have some numbness in my outer toes as a result of that.
Yeah.
So this is a decent match. It's not, I don't know, it's a little bit of chaos. Are you ready to talk finish?
Yeah, I
mean,
mean,
anything else you want to
there was also like just along with that spine buster, Butch Reed has his hip toss into a short arm clothesline that he's gonna decapitate somebody with that thing. Like, good lord, like how much is it to insure these guys when they're doing shit like that? Like they're landing things, as Stone Cold would say, snugly. It's very, very snug.
Laying it in there.
Yeah.
How about, I know there's a fantastic Ron Simmons versus Vader match. I wonder if Doom ever wrestled like a Vader and somebody else, like Vader and Stan Hansen versus Doom.
Or like Doom versus like the Road Warriors. That's got to be out there somewhere.
Yeah.
It's probably only 30 seconds long, and like everybody's bleeding and nobody walks away. Like that's
the ring is in shambles. Just turn it into toothpicks.
Yeah.
So for the finish on this one, the ref gets distracted. Butch Reed slips on the brass knucks and tries to knock out Garvin with him, but he ducks, of course, and he knocks out Simmons instead. So the Freebirds get the win, the pin and the win. After the match, Reed he's just pissed, like he can't hardly control himself, and he attacks Simmons with the knucks, and Teddy's egging him on. So we've got the breakup of Doom, which breaks my heart. Just I think how many more people they could have paralyzed if they had stayed together. It's over too soon.
I mean, Dusty was heartbroken. He said, we thought everything was cosetic, if you will.
If you will.
If you will. Cosetic.
So they go, they interview some kid ringside who's got a Sting t-shirt on. He's from Philadelphia. I think he says he won a contest to be there. And they ask him who his favorite team in the War Games match is coming up. And he looks just utterly terrified. And he says, Doom. And JR covers pretty good. He's like, well, I don't think they'll be teaming up too much again anytime soon.
They're not even in the match, kid. They're
not
in the match.
Pat on the head and send him back to his seat. Poor kid, but good for him for winning a contest to get there. So, all right, we're down to it already. You get a little nice video package to kind of recount the bad blood between the teams here. So it's the Four Horsemen, which is Ric Flair, Barry Windham, and Sid Vicious, and Larry Zbyszko is subbing for Arn Anderson, who's injured. They are going up against Sting, Brian Pillman, and the Steiner brothers, of course, Rick and Scott, for a War Games match to round out this bad boy. So there's the poor cage, and this thing gets lowered from the ceiling. There's fireworks, but the cage it's having a hard time. It's looks like it's held together with baling wires, my mom would say.
They literally went to like Heckinger's and bought a bunch of fencing, and then like they're struggling to get it down, but it has its own theme music and it has fireworks going off of it. Mm-hmm. And the crowd is eating that shit up. Oh my God. They're so excited for this match. They are hot. They are ready to go. They are ready to see some violence in a cage. And as they lowered and finally connected the cage, because they're struggling with it, because it actually could flare out and like they had to bolt it to the ring. I was like, that cage ceiling, it has a ceiling, and that ceiling looks really low for someone like Sid Vicious to be in this match, or someone with like the nickname Flying Brian to be in this match. I think we're in trouble. And foreshadowing,
kind of sagging too, the ceiling. Yeah. It's not looking good. And when they do bring it down, you can see daylight on the far corner. I don't know if you noticed, where it's not connected. It's not put together.
Not at all.
And then it's time for the rules. which
God.
takes three full screens of text. I took pictures of them as they were coming down. 3 full screens of text. There's 9 bullet points. It takes roughly 4.5 hours to read the rules.
And Tony Schiavone is talking as fast as he can to get
Yeah.
through these rules, and it's still like, what?
It's also like karaoke a little bit. The bullet points change color as he's reading them. So as he's reading them, they turn white, and then they go back to kind of this like pinkish orange color. So the basic gist of it is there's 2 teams. You start out with 2 guys. They flip a coin to determine which team gets to send in their next guy first, and then once they send that person in, then you start the clock, and then every 2 minutes, the teams will alternate sending a person in. And once you get the full complement of 8 people in, that's when the actual match starts, and that's when you can actually win. You can't win by pinfall. You can't win by disqualification. You can only win by submission or surrender, which I don't know what the difference is. I guess surrender would be like, hey, I give up, whereas submission would be like tapping out.
Yeah.
Seems like it's a distinction without a difference, as they say.
I mean, you could just pin somebody into the corner and just pound them in the face. Like, I think that's how like the one in AEW kind of ended, and then Jericho still threw someone off the top of the damn thing.
Yeah.
So I was just looking at some war game statistics here, which is impressive. So the Road Warriors have been in 13 of these matches.
Hot damn.
And they've won all 13 of them.
Wow.
Ric Flair has been in 14 of them. Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard both have been in 15 of these matches. None of them have ever won one.
Wow.
Lex Luger has been in 13 of them as well and has won 10. It's just Sting has been in 12. Like, these matches seem like they can really like hurt your career.
Yeah. Age you prematurely.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so it looks like Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard are the ones that have been in the most of them, despite never winning one. So I feel like they should have one more and bring those guys into it, just so that
and let them
get a win on their record, like the Brooklyn Brawler. You know, after 25,000 matches, he can get a win.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a dramatic coin flip involved in the match and stuff like that. That's how complicated these rules are.
I don't know why they didn't do the coin flip before the match. Like, they start the match, and then they're like, okay, you guys have been fighting for a while now, for like, I think the beginning part is like 5 minutes or something. Yeah. And they're like, now we're going to flip the coin. Like, you could have done that ahead of time. You know, there's no reason. It kind of messes up the flow a little bit, which, whatever. It doesn't matter. So let's see. So Sting looks like Captain America. Brian's shoulder is all taped up from an earlier attack, so that's going to be a problem, clearly. He starts off, Brian Pillman does, with Barry Windham. He just goes fucking jumping into the cage. He's ready. He wants to get some revenge on Windham. He does some pretty cool moves, like swinging from the cage roof. And this is where I wrote, this is the shittiest cage I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's bad. Yeah. Like, Pillman's not that tall of a guy, and he can jump and grab the roof of the cage and hang from it. It's not that high, people. It's really terrifying how low that cage is.
But the first 5 minutes is all Pillman on offense, and just some serious brutality going on.
Yeah,
Windham is bleeding almost immediately from banging into the cage. It's a hot start. I enjoyed the start of this one. So
Brian Pillman is billed at 6 feet tall, and he's able to just easily jump right up and grab that cage. So that cage is not more than like 7 or 8 feet tall. The ceiling, like, it's not good. And Pillman starts off fighting really dirty. Like, he lands his low blow, and Dusty just says, "Yeah, he went home." And then finally Pillman makes Windham eat the cage, and then that's when JR starts screaming, "I think Windham has been lacerated."
Nice. That was a gorillaism.
And then Pillman starts biting on Windham's face, like biting the cut from the cage, and there's blood everywhere, and Brian Pillman has blood in his mouth and running down his chin. Like it is a gruesome and wonderful visual that we're getting.
Yeah, it looks like Stan Hansen with tobacco juice all over his face.
Yeah,
So,
but his blood.
Yeah, they the coin toss finally comes, and I'm sure that Wyndham is very ready. So the Horsemen win, and Flair comes in to rescue poor Barry Windham, who's just been eating it for the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's important to note that the coin flip is not televised. We don't see it.
Fuck.
We don't see the coin flip whatsoever. So why even bother with the coin flip? Just tell us ahead of time that they blah blah blah. They the Horseman team won the coin flip. Like you don't need to actually do a coin flip if you're not going to show the audience the coin flip.
Yeah, as determined before the match began. Yeah, that's all you need to do. So Sting comes in next, so we get some Flair versus Sting goodness, while Pillman puts a never-ending figure four on Wyndham. Those two are just going at it left and right. That's pretty exciting.
Each of these entries are like hot tags in a tag match, and the crowd goes insane for each and every one of them, to the point to where by the time we got all four in there, like all 8 guys in this match, the crowd is like foaming at the mouth in frenzy. Like there's no calming down. And you can see just the low budget of this is that, like, you can see the cage is a mess, the cage is rickety, and you can see the remnants of the fireworks that were attached to the cage that went off on the ring all over the place in the ring. It's bad. It looks nasty.
Yeah, Larry Zbyszko is next, and Sting handles both him and Flair at the same time, which is great. Flair finally kicks Pillman in the shoulder to get him to break that figure four on Wyndham. I thought there was a chance that was going to be it. Okay, we've got quite a few more people to get in the ring here. It's Steiner time. Rick comes in, and he is pissed. That guy's a beast. Like he just muscles everybody around.
Yeah. He grabs Ric Flair by the hair and rubs his face across the cage like a cheese grater. Like, oh so God. Gory. And then there's a blood stain left on the cage after it too. It's a great spot. And like props to Ric Flair being willing to suffer that, because there was no faking that happened there.
Yeah, no, for sure. I wrote down that spot too, because it's just like, and the camera shot is just perfect coming through the cage, and you see Rick's head. It's like just all like pulped, going back and forth across the cage. It's gross. It's
kind of like that scene in Independence Day where like they have the captured aliens down in Area 51, and like the alien wakes up and like the room gets all foggy, and then suddenly like the alien has Brent Spiner's character wrapped by the neck and slams him up against the glass and is talking through him, and like it looks just like that, like Ric Flair and Rick Steiner. Just it's so good.
I did actually, while I was watching, not this one, but while I was watching the this weekend show, this the Survivor Series with the War Games, I kind of wondered why they haven't switched over to like a plexiglass cage. I mean, other than cost and weight probably, but like, can you imagine how cool the visual that would be? Like, because if you're sitting in a crowd, the cage would kind of block your view a little bit, you know?
Yeah, cage matches aren't that fun live.
But can you imagine if it was like just like like at a hockey game, and you just see the people like get just smashed up against the glass? That'd be fucking amazing.
Okay, so you're not talking like putting them in like with a plexiglass roof as well, so like they'll have air.
Yeah,
they're not going to suffocate.
You drill some holes in it; they're fine. Put a little peanut butter in the corner, you know.
Some blades of grass for them to eat. It's fine.
A wet tissue, whatever. Sid is in, and then Scott Steiner is last. He is also a beast. I don't know which one of those brothers. I don't think either of those brothers were raised by humans. I think they were, I don't know, raised by bears or something.
I mean, Scott Steiner comes in and immediately lands a double underhook sit down power bomb on, I want to say it's Larry Zbyszko, and like he flips him up so hard, Larry Zbyszko's like feet hit the ceiling of the cage and they bounce back down to the mat in a very violent looking maneuver. And the the thing that I really enjoyed in this match is that Arn Anderson is ringside, but he's injured, and he's just standing on the outside of the cage, calmly watching 8 dudes beat the living shit out of each other.
Yeah.
And like inside the cage is like Thunderdome, and then on the outside is Arn Anderson calmly watching and like cheering them on. Like it's a great visual too, because like the camera keeps panning back so that you can see Arn Anderson just on the outside of the ring going, "Go team!"
Just a day at the lake for him,
Yeah.
just watching some brutality.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff going on. There's quadruple figure fours at one point, kind of like who's gonna go first, who's gonna get tapped out here. But I mean, the whole thing is just I wrote beautiful chaos.
Yeah,
it's kind of a symphony of violence. They do a good job of continuing to have fights even when they're not the primary focus. One of the things that I'm watching the WWE one this weekend is you get 2 or 3 people fighting and then the rest just kind of lay out, just sort of like trade like real half-ass punches or whatever. And you don't get that here. You get like these guys are still throwing each other into the cage face first, because you never know who's watching who in the where the camera is, but you don't know who the fans are watching, right? So you don't want to cheat somebody,
because like you also have that problem in like Royal Rumbles too, where like there's like always the classic spot of someone like in the corner pretending to be almost thrown over the top just so that they can pass time until it's their turn to go out or their turn to win. And it's just it's like they're all fighting each other, like putting up real spots, real things constantly happening. Yeah, there's like impressive stuff happening all over the place. Like Sting is military pressing Flair repeatedly into the roof of the cage. Again, that's how low the cage roof is that Sting is able to press Flair into it as a weapon. And Larry Zbyszko's caught in the figure 4 still, and you can hear him screaming in agony over JR and Dusty's mic. So that was great. And then the hideousness happens. The first power bomb of Sid on Brian Pillman. It's
ugly.
It's not good. It's not good.
It's really ugly. So he pretty much drops him on his friggin' neck. Like, I mean, I assume the power bomb, so Pillman has been playing injured the whole time here, right? And like he's been clearly kind of sold as the weak link, right? Like he's got the most sort of invested in it because he's the one that's been wronged, but he's also the one who's in the worst shape out of the other guys. So kind of there's an expectation, at least a little bit, that he's going to be the one to maybe lose it for him because he's already injured, but
not like this.
But not like that.
Not like this.
It's really bad. It's really bad.
Yeah. Psycho Sid is 6'7", so we've established that the cage roof is no more than 8 feet above the ring. You have Psycho Sid, who is 6'7", trying to lift a 6 foot tall Brian Pillman up onto his shoulders and then slam him down onto the mat on his back. But Pillman doesn't have enough room to get fully vertical so that he can do the 90-degree drop onto his back in the power bomb. And so he goes up, his head hits the roof of the cage, and then he's stuck horizontal, and then Sid still goes through the whole motion, and that ends up over-rotating Pillman and driving his neck and head directly into the mat.
Yeah.
And then you can see Sid go down and like say something to him, and then he picks him up for another power bomb.
Does it again. Yeah.
At least this one he lands on his back, but you can see him modifying the move to keep Pillman flat instead of going straight up, and then he's able to deliver Pillman onto his back straight down. And then that is where El Gigante, the big baby comes on down to the ring and rips into the cage a la Kane.
Yeah.
I guess you could say Kane ripped into the cage a la El Gigante to check on Brian Pillman. and the ref stops the match saying that Pillman is unconscious, even though we can see him, Sid, and El Gigante talking to each other.
Yeah.
No, he's unconscious. He's
I
out.
did like the visual of El Gigante carrying Pillman's lifeless body, sort of like a modern Pieta, right?
It's so
like Mary and Jesus. Like it was
so tragic.
It was kind of tragic, yeah.
And they kind of shoot it from below too, so you got this beautiful camera angle of this huge Latin man carrying small, lifeless Brian Pillman out of the ring and down the aisle back to the locker room. I'm pretty sure that he actually needed to be carried after taking
I wouldn't have trusted. I wouldn't have moved him personally. Like you want to strap a collar on that kind of thing.
No, even if he says he's okay, no. And it's a better spot too if they like have to like end the War Games match to bring an ambulance down to the ring and stuff. Like that is a finish right there. That's how brutal the War Games are, baby. You got to bring an ambulance down.
Yeah, it's I don't care for that finish that much. I mean, it makes sense in a way, but it sort of feels like a cheat after all that beautiful, beautiful violence we've just gotten, you know?
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was supposed to be how it ended, just because, like, it does kind of feel like it just because of El Gigante showing up. Like, that seems like something that would have to be scripted to happen, but also at the same time, like, there's no way Pillman was like, yeah, I need you to botch this power bomb on me because the cage is too low. So then I have a reason to be carried out of this ring in dramatic fashion. And then, like, after the match, the referee actually goes over to JR and talks to JR and says that he could see that Pillman was unconscious and that's why he stopped the match. And like Dusty and JR are kind of just like riffing to fill up the airtime, even though they had a perfect time to just like, if you had that camera shot, like I know in Vince's production trailer, if he had the camera shot of El Gigante carrying Brian Pillman down the ramp, limp, triumphantly, he would say,
that's where you stop. Yep.
Cease transmission. Yep. Put up the copyright WWF 1991. Like, roll out. That's it. I don't care if we're going to have 10 minutes of dead satellite time. That's the end of the show.
Yeah, you can play the friggin' Super Brawl promo preview a couple more times. After.
Yeah, one more time where JR tells you we're going to get more information about Super Brawl and then nothing but it's the name Super Brawl and the date that it is. Thanks, JR.
Yeah. So I have to say our War Games match, I'd say it delivered. It had pretty much everything I wanted. I would have liked a better finish, but you know, what are you going to do? Just some amazing performers, just some really incredible spots, ruined a little bit by the shoddiness of the cage and the sort of limits it placed on the guys trying to get stuff done in there. But there's a lot to like.
This whole show had a lot to like. And like, I think this is though, like where the WWF shines a little bit, where they know it has to look good. It's all like they kind of have this grasp that like a large chunk of the business is very superficial. So your wrestlers need to look big and tough and strong, and your cage needs to look durable and tight and tough. And
your pyro needs to not leave like piles of ash on the side of the cage.
Right. So like, I think that's where things are happening, and like they understand that like music is very important to help get wrestlers over, that like having a song that the crowd can instantly recognize as that's their guy coming down to the ring to get that huge pop. That's just something that like all of these WCW and then into Jim Crockett Promotion shows are missing. They have great matches and lots of talent, but like it's just missing that polish.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this before, but like the few times when I was, a kid or a teenager and I would try to flip over and watch WCW just because, hey, I like wrestling. Here's some more wrestling that's on TV. I would never last very long. And it was the difference in the production values, and the product I was used to was very shiny. And you can say it's sort of sanitized and kind of cartoony, which is true, but it also it always looked good and it sounded good. And, the lights didn't go out mid-match. Usually, when they had a cage match, it didn't look like it was put together from the Heckinger's bargain basement bin. And that, like you said, that kind of stuff matters. It keeps you from changing the channel, and it lets you stick around to actually appreciate the wrestling, because the wrestling here is top notch. It's fucking amazing. But it kind of looks like garbage.
Right, like the costumes on the people that had gimmicks, just didn't look good. Like the costumes that the young Pistols had and that the royal family had. Like, it's just missing that thing,
Yeah.
It's just that just like a little bit of like shine on the edges, a little bit better branding. So like you never saw, like, there's no set. So even WWF would have some sort of little tiny set, like an archway with branding on it. Like, you could, if you turned into this show, if you didn't tune in at the beginning of it, you didn't know that this was WCW. They never say WCW really during the show. There's no like WCW on the ring. There's no WCW on the turnbuckles, or there's no WCW on like the ramp where they come down. There's no WCW on the curtains. There's no like when there are promos, they're never going, well, I'm going to be the best one in WCW. I'm going to be the WCW world champion. Like, there's no like merchandising, I guess. There's no that like polish that just like makes the product shine and look good on television, because this doesn't look good on television.
No, it doesn't look good at all. So yeah, it looks like it's happening from Veterans Memorial Coliseum in the middle of a state that's not particularly known for pro wrestling fans.
Right, but I mean, we've watched the first Starrcade, and like that was 6 or 7 years before this, and it doesn't. It looks the same. Like, it all looks the same. There's actually probably a little bit. There's at least like NWA and Jim Crockett Promotions stuff slapped on it, at least. But this, like, there's no WCW. There's no nothing.
Yeah. So you're ready to talk superlatives for this one? Did you have a favorite match, a best match?
Oh man, that's gonna be tough.
There's a lot of good stuff. I think I would probably pick Bobby Eaton and Brad Armstrong. I mean, the wrestling is the best in that one.
Yeah. Yeah, if I'm going to go by wrestling, that's going to be the best match. If I'm going to go by entertainment value and like what kept me like not looking away at all, that's going to be the War Games match. Like, I didn't want to miss a single second of that damn thing, because like people were bleeding. There was blood stains on a cage. Like, there's dudes getting dropped on their necks. There's like Sting flying over the top rope of one ring and landing in the other ring. There's this crazy shit nonstop happening in that match, and you can't look away. It's a car wreck.
Yeah. Well, and especially until everybody gets in there, like you said, there's a hot tag every 2 minutes, basically.
Right.
So that's very exciting, and the crowd goes nuts. They lose their fucking minds. No, it's a really good show all around. I would have a hard time picking a worst match. It's the only one. Maybe the Vader and Stan Hansen one, but
I would say Dustin versus Buddy Landell was probably the worst match in my opinion. And it's not saying it was a bad match. It was just not the best one on the card. It's probably the weakest one, and the one that if I had to tell someone that like they had shortened time to watch this, that would be the one.
Yeah, it is the sloppiest one, I think, and the botchiest maybe.
Yeah.
So, but not terrible, not unwatchable, anything like that. And then we always try to pick an oh shit moment, a moment that really like popped you, really made you sit up and go, oh god damn it. So mine, I couldn't decide between Sid dropping Pillman on his head or Luger with that crazy roll up to small package thing that I did not see coming at all. Those would probably be my top two.
Yeah, I think mine is going to be Stan Hansen throwing the referee. There's zero care about this being a match, and he just grabs the referee and just throws him out of the ring, like battle royal style, out of the ring. Like, get the fuck out of my face, ref.
Poor Pee Wee.
Poor Pee Wee. Yeah, so I think that's going to be my oh shit moment, right there with Rick Steiner using the cage as a cheese grater on Ric Flair's face. Like, those two moments are very close to each other. And I think those are going to be my oh shit moments.
You're going to make the highlight reel for sure. So, yeah, fantastic show all around. I'm glad we had a chance to watch it. It was fun to sort of watch this and then also watch the War Games match on Survivor Series this weekend. The differences are pretty noticeable.
I haven't watched it, and I can imagine that it's nowhere close to this. It's nowhere like there's no similarities except for the fact that there's a big cage and 8 people in it.
I will say that the men's one I thought actually had really good sort of build and dramatic storytelling throughout it. And there's a lot of stuff going on with the Usos and the Bloodline and Sami Zayn and his buddy Kevin Owens, and they kind of keep you guessing, and there's some good beats in that match, I'd say.
Did anyone bleed in that match?
Nobody bled. Like there was a moment I got all excited. I thought one of the Usos was bleeding, and I realized it's just his the red highlights on his hair hanging in front of his face. I'm like, nah, fuck. Lame.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I have to say the show overperformed for me. I was kind of dreading watching it because I just glanced over the card. Like, yeah, the War Games match has all the talent in it, honestly, from what it looks like, right? Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, well, there's these 4 Japanese women wrestlers that I've never heard of. Okay. Oh, great. Buddy Landell against like Dustin Rhodes, who's like 10 in this match. Like, oh, great. Terry Taylor versus Tom Zenk. Oh, boy. You know, like, oh, great. Lex Luger. Well, I like Dan Spivey, but, you know, like, so like I had such low expectations coming into this thing, and like it was so good, it made my expectations of what it was doing get better. I would highly recommend if you got like 2.5 hours on a Sunday afternoon to sit down and got nothing else to watch. Wrestle War 91, man, that's a good choice.
You can do a lot worse. All right, let's wrap it up as we always do with our In Memoriam section. We like to just take a moment to pay tribute to the men and women we've seen in each special who are no longer with us. So our In Memoriam for Wrestle War 91 includes Dusty Rhodes, Eddie Guerrero from a dark match, which we didn't actually see on the special, but I want to mention him anyway. The Junkyard Dog, Beautiful Bobby Eaton, Brad Armstrong, Nature Boy Buddy Landell, Tracy Smothers, Big Van Vader, Big Daddy Dink, a.k.a. Oliver Humperdinck, Butch Reed, El Gigante, Jorge Gonzalez, and Brian Pillman. So that's our show for Wrestle War 91. We appreciate you listening along with us. If you have a chance to check it out, send us your thoughts, your comments, your suggestions, your complaints, your recipes, what to do with your turkey leftovers. You can send it to us on Twitter at WrestleMania Pod. You can find us on the web, of course, at allthewrestlemanias.com. Shoot us an email at allthewrestlemanias@gmail.com. You can find our Facebook and our Instagram accounts. Just search for All the WrestleManias on those platforms. We're out there trying to put out some, fun content for you every day. So for now, we appreciate you listening, and we'll say so long.